Good evening, friends.
Oh, good.
Tonight we are honoring the past, living the present, and envisioning the future. And we've asked a panel of friends to come and join us who have all grown up in Illinois yearly meeting. And we've asked them to share some of their experiences, how Illinois yearly meeting has influenced them. So we're going to go starting at the end with Barbara, and we'll have each of you introduce yourselves and share your story.
I guess it's on. Hi, I'm Barbara Simpson Furman. I started coming to Illinois Yearly Meeting in 1943, 82 years ago. I was 6 years old. Yes, you can add 82 and 6. I am 88 years old. My mother and I would drive down from a suburb of Chicago. We had actually moved from New Jersey in 1943 to a suburb in Chicago, near Chicago. And so we had not come to Illinois Yearly Meeting before 1933. We had gone to the FGC conference in Cape May, New Jersey every 2 years, but now we were coming down to Illinois Yearly Meeting, which was a special treat for me because my grandfather, Albert Mills, was born on a farm here in McNabb. I mean, you could walk to it here, just down the road. He did not still live on a farm when I was growing up because he had gone to college and gotten a master's degree. They have a story too, right? Anyway, my grandfather, Albert Mills, became a history professor at Millikan, but there were still lots of Millses and Wilsons down here, as many of you must realize. But in 1943 and many years after that, the Quaker farmers in this whole area would take in at Illinois Yearly Meeting time all of the people who had come from other meetings around the state and Indiana or Wisconsin, wherever they come from. And so everybody was put up in Quaker farm homes around this area. My mother and I would stay with my Aunt Edith, who was the first farm right across the tracks as you go up 89. The farm is still there, and Aunt Edith is long gone. But it was, yearly meeting was held in August at that time. Oh, it was hot. And oh, the cicadas or whatever those noises in the trees, they were making such a racket. I don't know if John, you remember that, but we talked about making cicada soup because there were so many cicadas crawling down the trees. So my mother and I stayed with Aunt Edith, and then we would come down to Illinois Yearly Meeting, this building. But my father was working during the week, so on the weekend he would hop his company small plane, and he would fly down for the weekend, and he would look for a farmer's field right in this area that did not have any corn or anything else growing on it. So he would land his plane in the farmer's field. It usually was behind Clear Creek House right over here, and then he would walk over here. And of course, that made some sort of a stir. And so he would take people for for a little fly around. And sometimes I would go home with him on the plane, and sometimes I'd drive home with my mother to keep her company. But I went to junior yearly meeting, of course, in those years, and it was a wonderful experience. We had super leaders. We would do all kinds of paper projects, and we would sing songs. Jesus loves me, this I know, for the Bible. Yes, and all those songs. And then the leaders would tell us stories. I think at one point there was a dining hall over here built, a dining hall. Does anybody go back that far to remember that? And so sometimes we would meet in the dining hall if it was rainy out. And sometimes, now I told Margie this, and she doesn't think this is true, but no, maybe it was Grace I told that that after the dining hall was gone, there was a pig house that we met as for junior yearly meeting. Now, this was kind of a rounded building like this and had a big empty space. I don't think pigs had ever lived in it, but it was able to be used as a pig house on someone's farm after we finished using it for junior yearly meeting. Now, the elders or the adults who were here meeting in these rooms were all very wonderful and open and lovely to the children. So we had a wonderful experience just getting acquainted with the elders who had come down from all these different meetings that we had never seen or experienced before. So it was really wonderful meeting all these people from all over the Midwest when we came down for Illinois yearly meeting. So I said that we did projects, we did drawing, we did singing, but the best part of junior yearly meeting was writing the epistle. That was such an adult thing to do. I thought it was wonderful to have to write that epistle. I never had any ideas of what to put in it, but if you're in the committee, you're sitting around there and you're trying to write this epistle, it feels very important, just like the adults were doing here in the meeting room. As I had said, the adults were all very approachable, that they were very wonderful to the kids. Now, there were a couple of years that Bernard Walton, does anybody remember the name Bernard Walton? He had been General Secretary of French General of FGC. And then he was also traveling secretary, and he came down here for maybe 2 or 3 different years. And he was a wonderful white-haired guy, and he was just so great to all of the kids and all of the people in meeting. You just had wonderful conversations with him, even though you were 7 years old and he was who knows what age. But I just remember those wonderful times with Bernard Walton when he would come down here. There at one point, I think it was late 60s, early 70s, a dormitory was built over here. Or any of you here when there was a dormitory? Okay. Lou Walton from Lake Forest Meeting had designed the dormitory. I don't know how many years it stayed there. It had indoor toilets, as I remember. But before that, the women's toilets were over here and the men's toilets were over there, and there were holes in boards. No? And who knows what's happened to that now? I don't want to know. You used to have the holes? John has the hole. Anyway, where was I? Okay, so the dormitory was built, but then I don't know, at some point it was torn down and people started camping out in different places around, and then cabins were built. And then I think the old dining hall has gone down there. And Margie and Grace had said that the dining hall is down in the campground. Is that right? And being used for other uses, recycling. That's wonderful. The high school students stay in it. Oh, okay, that's wonderful. And now, motels have been built. So some of us doddering people find it's a little easier to stay in the motels. So thanks to all of you wonderful people who are staying in tents and cabins in rainstorms, which I hear went through yesterday. I think that's wonderful, but I'm going to be very happy to go back in an air-conditioned place tonight. And you can just turn your back onto me tomorrow and say, oh, what a chicken. Anyway, the most important thing to me about yearly meeting all those years was the contact with the wider Quaker world of friends. In tiny little McNabb, all of these people had come down here from all over and made me aware of the potency and the deep validity of Quaker beliefs and values, way beyond what I might be able to pick up week to week on Sunday worship. So I just thank this community, and I'm so glad it is as vibrant as it is now. And I haven't met many of you because we just came down today. But this is such a wonderful group, and I really love it that there is Illinois yearly meeting to come to. Unfortunately, we have a cabin in northern Wisconsin and spend a lot of the summer in northern Wisconsin, so we haven't gotten down here as often as we would have liked in recent years. But I love to come whenever it's possible to come. So thank you very much. Now I pass the microphone on over to John Hyder, a cousin of mine. I mean, our parents were first cousins. So, John.
Okay, like she said, my last name is Hyder. Hyder, I want you to remember that. However, I come from a long line of Wilsons, Millses, and right on down the line. In fact, my middle name is Clarence, which is named after my grandfather. He was a veterinarian, which meant he was also a dentist too at the same time. This is true. It said it right on his business card. You know, he was a vet and a dentist too. But anyhow, what do I remember about Clear Creek yearly meeting, Quaker Lane? Well, in 1948, my father was killed in a farm accident. My mother became a school teacher, and we lived in Ohio for a long, long time. And all of a sudden, a man showed up from Illinois with a horse trailer. By the end of the day, my mom said, "We're going to move to Illinois. We're going to get married." I thought, boy, all right. I was just a little kid. I was probably in about the 5th or 6th grade at that time. And so this was a new adventure for me. But I remember coming across Indiana. My stepfather, Arthur Wilson, who lived just north of Swaney School in the Friends Cemetery. His brother lived in Indiana, and we would stop in there halfway because remember, we didn't have 4-lane highways. We just had, 2-lane, and pulling a horse trailer in a 1949 Ford Coupe. That was a long trip. We didn't have air conditioning or anything like that at all. Well, anyhow, we came to the farm, and I didn't know a disc from a pig. I really didn't know the difference. So I had to learn a little bit about farming, and we did raise animals, and we did come to Quaker meeting every Sunday, just like clockwork. It was expected. But the things I remember about coming to Quaker meeting was Quaker Lane. One particular instance I remember, he was my cousin. He was an older man. He was probably 45 or 50 at the time. He had a Pontiac Chieftain, and he was going real slow down Quaker Lane toward the meeting house. We were in a little VW Bug, and we just wanted to pass him. And just as we got alongside, he turned and smiled and floored it. So I can say Quakers have a little bit of fun too. You just don't know where it's going to come from. Anyhow, any of you remember the movie Friendly Persuasion? This was about 1956, 55, somewhere in there. It was about a Quaker family during the Civil War and the trials and tribulations they had with the war fighting and this type of thing. And it showed both sides of the family. And that's the way I like to look at our Quakers today. We can see both sides as far as that goes. One particular, it was during yearly meeting, like Barb said, people would come over and stay at different houses. We must have had somebody that was pretty high up in the Quaker meeting church. And it was during their Sunday dinner, and things got real quiet. And all of a sudden I thought, I'll just blurt out, "You want to see my guns?" I thought, oh, gee, my mom could have drilled a hole through me. But the man was very, very cordial, and we talked about him, and then we went our merry way. But I learned a lesson that day. That's one thing you don't bring up on Sunday, during the Sunday dinner. Okay. It's been a thrill, a pleasure, an honor to be a Quaker. I can remember the day that I joined. Edna Wolf came to me one day, and she just had a little piece of paper. She said, "John, we would like you to join the meeting." I thought, wow. And I joined Quaker, became a Quaker that day and Clear Creek member. But that was when I was about 15 years old. But I still remember that very, very clearly. And some of the other things I remember is that the dining hall became the junior yearly meeting. And I can remember going in there, and it had a different smell to it, sort of like wood all the time. And it was very plain and Spartan inside. We had, tables and chairs and this type of thing, but there wasn't a whole lot but we learned an awful lot. The teachers we had that they had a lot of patience, that's for sure, with a bunch of teenagers like we were. We were probably one of the biggest challenges they ever had. But that was a memory too. And then Barb also talked about her Uncle Albert Mills. Albert was a professor at the Millikan University down at Decatur, but he was also deaf. And he wore a little box and the wire went up and into his ear. And the youngsters we would sit on the back row and we would watch the different adults up here. And when Albert would take his hearing aid out and put it in his pocket, we knew he was going to stand up and talk. So one day I asked him, I said, Uncle Bert, I said, how come you take that out? He simply looked at me, he says, John, I take it out, and if I talk loud enough for me to hear it, then I know the rest of the meeting is hearing it too. But just coming here has just been great, grand. I wish I spend more time in this area, but because of other things, they just take precedent. But we still come up here at least once a month and go to meeting over at the Bill's house. And but I appreciate everybody coming. It's been a pleasure, an honor, and thank you very much for asking me to talk tonight.
I forgot to say something. My grandfather, Albert Mills, that John just mentioned with the hearing aid story. My grandfather, Albert, talked at almost every Sunday meeting. And he always talked about farming, even though he had become a professor in a college, farming was always most on his mind. And so there was always some sort of allusion to farming in whatever he spoke on Sunday meeting. Even at our wedding, Don and my wedding, 65 years ago, my grandfather got up and spoke and said, marriage is like farming. It begins anew every day. And I think all life is like farming. It begins anew every day. We have the opportunity to reach out and do good things every day. So I thought that was something I wanted to say. Sorry.
One thing I'd like to add about Albert too and his wife, they were one of the few couples that I know that spoke the simple language, the thee and thou. And it was always a pleasure to be around them. It was sort of neat to listen to something like that.
And I don't know what to say. I'm David Wixom. Grew up here. I was going to say I was a very odd Quaker because most friends, when you're here and when you're with a gathering of friends, you're not a birthright Quaker. You're a very small minority. So the convinced friends and the attenders are the vast majority of Quakers. And I, as a birthright Quaker, am very grateful to the attenders and to the convinced friends because without them, we wouldn't exist. We here are very odd Quakers. As evidence of that, I want to show you my T-shirt here. This was sold by the high school group. This is the one long sleeve T-shirt in the gathering here. Anyway, my dad traces my family history back to the founding of Pennsylvania with William Penn. More recent times, my grandfather was a treasurer here. My father was an Earl, and my father was an early school graduate. He was clerk here. Myself, I'm a graduate of Only Friends School. My daughter, Karen, and her husband, Steve, are graduates of Earlham, and my daughter was also reading clerk here. And then last week, my granddaughter started walking, and when she shows up on Saturday, she will be the 5th generation in my immediate family that's attended Illinois Yearly Meeting. But again, I want to emphasize, it's the new attenders, it's the convinced friends that are the reason we exist. So things that were important to me, when I was 12, my mother died of breast cancer. And there was some other crap, but about 2 years ago, my wife also died of breast cancer. And these kind of traumas that shatter your home and everything, and I mean everything, you look for a place that's home. And for me, it was my monthly meetings and Illinois yearly meeting. And what is it that made home? Well, when I was in high school group, a man came over and said, "Hey, I need some help putting together an Illinois yearly meeting pamphlet." And said, "Dave, you need to run the stapler." And I was very willing to do that and was touched to be asked. And that man was Dick Ashtown. Uh, and he was the printer for the Illinois yearly meeting, among other things. So the fact of an adult asking youth to do something that was significant in the ongoing running of the meeting is critical. It's a reason I'm here. The second thing is it was an activity. It was something physical that it was an activity. It was something we're physically doing. And I hope if you remember something I've said, it's those two things. Adult involvement with the youth that are not parents, or parents are okay, but it seems like the non-parents seem to have more weight, particularly in the teenage years. And the second thing is some kind of activity. A second activity that we were only supposed to talk about one, but it was husking corn that Clear Creek farmers brought in for one of our meals. So again, I really, this is unusual to be here with so many Quakers and so many people that have been here for decades. But when you go to the monthly meeting, when you look around, there are attenders. They're convinced friends. And I just want to thank you, those folks in particular.
Hi, I'm Anna Watson. I belong to the Bloomington Normal Friends meeting. And I wrote down what I was going to say, so I'm just going to read it because otherwise I would forget. So I just wrote about what Illinois Yearly Meeting has meant to me. When I was a kid, we called it IYM. So I still call it IYM instead of ILYM, right? So, okay, so I grew up in a small meeting, and when I first came to Illinois Yearly Meeting around age 8 in the 1980s, I was taken aback because I had no idea that so many Quakers could exist in one place. It was comforting and a little overwhelming to suddenly be surrounded by people who shared this faith that in my everyday life felt like a well-kept secret. So that first year, I think we just came on the weekend, like on maybe Friday night, and we got here really late. It was dark and I was feeling tired and disoriented. And like everyone already knew each other. And so I kind of took refuge in, do you remember Richard who had he would sell his treasures like right out in the front, right? So I loved spending time just looking at all of the things that he was selling. And let's see, it was set up on the edge of the property. He would set up tables to sell rare treasures like jewelry and random trinkets and things of mysterious origin. Um, and I took refuge there when I wasn't sure what to do with my introverted self. But after that year, I settled into IYM, and here I discovered joy and freedom. As a kid, we had a kind of freedom here that didn't really exist in our regular lives. We took long walks, we climbed trees, we climbed trees and ate the mulberries from the tree. But one of my favorite activities, my very favorite, was climbing the rafters in the old dorm. And which in hindsight was not the safest activity. But somehow we survived, right? And from the rafters, we could see across the whole dorm. And so, like, full of bunk beds and sleeping bags and, people taking a nap. And I don't know how they let us do that. It was our domain. So there was youth programming too, of course, though I have to admit that I don't really remember much of it. Because sitting in a confined space and listening to someone talk wasn't always what appealed to me most. But I have vivid memories. We went to Starved Rock a few times, hiking and swimming under the waterfall. That was a nice memory. And I remember when David Fink came to speak to us when I was in high school about being a conscientious objector during the Vietnam War and about being arrested for resisting, and that made a lasting impression. At IYM, we were expected to pitch in. I remember cleaning the bathhouse and helping serve the meals, counting people as they came in, and it gave me a real sense of responsibility, not because anyone told us to take ownership, but because we already felt like we belonged. And the food, let's just say that there was rationed lentil loaf, which is probably why I loved going for walks to Edgewood after dinner. And we would order mozzarella sticks, and they tasted so good and hot and salty, and shared across a booth full of tired teenagers. When I was in high school, we spent hours in the foxhole, that moldy little shack. Was absolutely a health hazard. And yes, but it was ours. Every year we'd sweep out the mouse poop and roll out the same nasty carpet and like lay on it all week. Yeah, we'd spend the next 4 days talking, playing cards, laughing our heads off, listening to music. We talked about everything and nothing, and it was where we figured out who we were together. At night, the meeting house was ours, and we'd hang out here and play psychiatrist. The older kids and the young adult friends loved this game, and it was a game with secret rules. Does anyone remember playing psychiatrist here? Yeah, so the point is like there's like a panel like this actually. And and I can't tell you the secret, but we spent hours trying to figure it out. Like hours, and we were just really invested. And then the people on the panel would just sit and laugh at us while while the rest of us made wild guesses. So we were always convinced we were getting close, but we never were. We had fun trying. Um, we watched sunrises on the train tracks because we stayed up all night. We took long walks to the cemetery. Oh, let me see who's here. One year, someone who shall remain nameless stayed up so late in the meeting house that he fell asleep there under a bench. And right on the floor. He was still there the next morning during meeting for worship. And it's unclear whether he rose because the spirit moved him or just because he was about to get stepped on. And then there was the writing of the epistle, which for me, it was unfortunately sort of an afterthought. Every year we'd put it off until the last possible moment, usually the night before or the morning of. And thank goodness we had Margie. She somehow would wrangle our scattered thoughts and jot down what mattered. And I don't know if we'd ever get an epistle written if it wasn't for her. She kept us in line. So I found safety here. Aside from the time I fell from the top bunk to the floor in the dorm, which is a rite of passage, really. And oh, as an aside, now that we have the beautiful cabins built from the reclaimed wood of the old dorm, sleeping in them brings back that feeling. They even smell the same. A little musty, a little sacred. But in the larger sense, IYM was a place where I could be myself. It was okay to be awkward and weird. I didn't worry about appearances or judgments. I could just be. And at that time, that kind of peace was hard to find anywhere else. But I want to be honest, after high school, I drifted away. I moved away. I went to college. I went to ILYM with a few people here. Um, and then, my people scattered. And without my group, I didn't know how to belong here anymore. I felt too old for the youth program, obviously, but too out of step for the adult conversations and business meetings. So I stopped coming. And somehow 20 years passed. But I never stopped carrying this place with me. Growing up at IYM shaped my sense of community, justice, seeing that of God in everyone. It influenced where I went to college and pointed me toward the work I do now, teaching multilingual learners, many of whom are immigrants. Most importantly, from IYM, I gained lifelong friendships. And though many of us have drifted apart, we will always share the magical memories of having grown up coming here. And Rebecca Goldentrist, who's here, posted on her Facebook that, the friends that you make at Yearly feel like family, right? So now I'm back here with my own kids, and they love it here. They would never let us miss Illinois Yearly Meeting. So it's as magical for them as it was for me. And this place has held generations, and it still holds me. So thank you for being part of my growing up and my coming back.
Hi, everybody. I first came here in 1995. Who am I, you ask, Mike? Well, I'll tell you. If you met me in the 90s, you know me as Charles Howard McKinney. If you met me in this century, you might know me as Chaz. I go by either. But when I first came here in the 90s, yeah, I didn't know really what to expect. I didn't have a deep family connection. My brother had come here the year before and told me a little about it. And I was intrigued but confused and didn't know. I had gone to a Quaker meeting when I was really young. Like, I can't remember when we stopped, but I was probably around 6 or 7 or, yeah. And my family started attending a Unitarian church instead. And I had fond memories of my time with Quaker meeting, but I didn't, at that point anyway, didn't really consider it a part of me. I thought it was just something I'd done as a kid. So when I heard about this and my brother was telling me just the magical experiences he had, I was intrigued. And but when I came, a lot of what you said, Anna, resonated with me. So I promise these are my own thoughts, even if a lot of them sound like hers. What's that?
You were born.
Well, yeah, but that was also very young, even younger. Yeah, I was blown away by just how many people were here and the energy and the spirit and the connection and just you could tell that people were interacting with each other with a deep spirit of friendship and peace, and that this was a special place. I could tell that right away. But at first I still felt a little out of place, but I made friends in that old wooden dorm building. And the first friends I made just by playing cards, just by approaching some kids playing cards, asking them to teach me the game. I believe it was called Monkey Temple. I think I still remember the rules. It's been a long time. But that brought me in. That broke the ice for me. And I spent a lot of time that first year really appreciating the freedom I had of being able to walk around this place, see the trees. I spent so much time climbing trees. There were some very climbable trees, and I would have sap all over my hands, but I loved it. And there was the friends I made who brought me back. That connection made me want to come back. And the next year, I made even more friends, and Um, Friends who I still have to this day, some who are in this room. There's one. Hey, William, how you doing? Um, and yeah, just lifelong friends, people who've been with me the whole way. Um, and yeah, we would play games, we would take long walks, we would stay up so late in the night, ridiculously late, playing music, playing cards, playing spades in particular, till like 3 in the morning, like very odd children. Listening, yeah, sitting in the basement. And what's that? Yes, getting yelled at. That's good. Yes. Sometimes the music was a little too loud, but it brought us together, and that's what I remember the most. And also just the beautiful, peaceful, natural environment here. You know, it's just has a whole different energy. And listening to the cicadas and the majesty of nature. Sometimes we'd have just very powerful summer storms, and we would just sort of stand in awe as it roared above. And on clear, cloudless nights, we just see a beautiful night of stars. I remember one night, speaking of ill-advised decisions, we were laying in the middle of the street looking up at the sky. Yeah, right. And I was just blown away by just how many stars there were. And it was a magical moment. It was made more magical by the friends I was with. And we would just remark, we would try to keep count. We lost count. And then the youth program, the teachers, I saw Mark earlier. Is Mark here? Mark led my high school program and really made it feel special. And I appreciate him for that. And the high school program is really where I felt a strong connection, strongest than any I'd felt before. And we would walk down to the tracks, we would walk down to the graveyard, try to play pranks on each other, spook each other at night. Yeah, and the connections I made here, they really, this is where I became a Quaker, I think you could say. I was, right, as a conscious, grown person. That's when I decided to be a Quaker. And the connections I made here brought me to so many other like youth Quakes. I went to Blue River Quarterly because of the friends I made here. I went to FGC with the family I met here, with people I met here. I first heard about Earl College, where I went to college here, from someone who was giving a lecture in our high school group. And yeah, all of that came from here. All of the connections that came here really brought me there. But also, like Anna, after I was done with college, it felt different. You know, the program wasn't the same. A lot of my friends weren't here anymore, and it didn't quite feel the same. And I drifted away too for many years. But it was just like with the friends who brought me back those first years, it was friends who brought me back again, people who came back, who worked with the youth program as adults, who started to put together an AYF program. They brought me back here, and I'm grateful for them. And yeah, now in the years since I've been back, I started coming back about 6 or 8 years ago, and I think I'm more involved than I've ever been. You know, I've been going to a monthly meeting more. I'm working with the Children's Religious Education Program here. I volunteered at the Youth Quake in Evanston earlier. And so again, yeah, just as the second time in my life, the friends I made here brought me into the wider community and have really, shown me a lot of different places we can be together. So yeah, I sit here now in front of all of you with just a spirit of gratitude. I'm so grateful for this place, for all the years it's been here, how it's been here for all of us. And I hope it stands for another 150 years and more.
Hi, I'm Rose Johnson. Some of you know me as Dennis as well. I started out at Bloomington Normal Friends meeting. We came here from North Carolina and quickly found Bloomington Friends fairly quickly. And it's a small meeting, so that was pretty surprising. We came from a fairly large one in North Carolina. It was really great for my parents to have that connection and get us in with Quakers, except there was no kids. It was me and my brother. hanging out like we could do at home. So we didn't like going. So it was really a struggle to get us like to be connected and getting into it again. When my sister passed away when we were in elementary school, my parents ended up finding IYM and they're like, let's try this out. There's more kids there. We came and we dragged our feet the whole time. We didn't want to come out into the middle of the fields in the middle of August. We just wanted to stay home in the air conditioning. And it was really important to my parents to get us involved after my sister. We came here and it was just kids everywhere. And it was the same thing what you've heard. It was just freedom. And you could just run and you had instant friends and it was just this sense of like belonging and love that like we needed and my parents needed as well. And we found that Clear Creek had another family with one other kid. So we became Clear Creek friends pretty quickly. And that was really fun and getting to see other people. We wanted to come to the meeting more. We got more involved. We started doing more things with the junior high group when we got older. My oldest brother didn't really stay in the high school group, so we didn't really see what was going on, what was interesting, but we enjoyed coming. So when my middle brother and I got into the high school group, we thought this was the coolest thing ever. Like, yeah, Dick will get us, and Dick takes us on his truck, and we all go in the bed and we pick up mattresses, stack them up, and ride back over here. And like, site prep was awesome. Like, just driving around with Dick throwing mattresses everywhere. Like, this was amazing. Like, we all wanted to help out and do that. Like, that was the start of IYM to us and like getting to run around. And it was just, it set the mood for the whole week of just having fun and hanging out and building relationships. Definitely falling off the rafters because I did that too when we had that dorm room. It was probably a good thing that we took it down. Um, so it was really sad. I was really sad because he took it down like right before I was able to sleep in it as a high schooler. So it was really disappointing to me. But we definitely snuck in there and played in there and everything. But getting to see it move over there and like I came in and like saw that work happen too. The fact that we were trying to like salvage parts of IYM and like restore it in other places and like we did that with the cabins and everything. Like that is just beautiful to see us like try to restore and keep us going on these grounds and everything. So I truly loved that. um it just the sense of here is completely different than anywhere else you have. um and then getting out of the high school group, exactly what they said. I'm not sure what I'm going to do. What's going on? What's going to happen? And then they were like, hey, we need a youth coordinator. And I was like, perfect. I have something to do there now. So I came and I was the youth coordinator for off and on, I think around 8 or 9 years. And I loved it, just getting to like make that sense of joy that I had for the new teens coming in and going through and just making it a fun place that they wanted to come to. And it was an amazing thing getting to do. And then having my children now come, you can probably hear Poppy running around. And there's just these three girls all running around, and to know that they're all from Quakers here growing up too, like that's such a fun thing to see. And then my son's in the high school group now, like that's weird. It's a little weird. And like just getting to like see my kids on grounds and like exactly what has been said is just like generations of a family, generations of like friends and just family throughout of everyone here. Like Milo telling me about like, oh yeah, Eli came up to me and gave me a hug. And I'm like, yeah, he gives the best hugs. I look forward to them every year. And like getting to like see these connections that like my kids have with everyone in here. I'm like, oh, you know this person. Like I'm so happy because it's just every single one of you and these grounds have a story to tell and like in my life and now in my children's lives as well. So it's very important to me and I do love it and it's exciting coming here. So thank you.
Hi guys, I promise I'm not texting. I also have to read off of my phone. Um, my name is Jasmine, and I've been a Quaker my whole life. Um, Now I'm gonna read. When I was little, I learned very quickly that life is scary and unpredictable, and people don't often follow the rules that I've created in my head. Um, my life was unpredictable, and my friends and even my parents. I felt as if the world was spinning around me, and all I could understand was how fast someone my age could get dizzy. As I got older, I realized it was even scarier than I had originally thought, and yearly meeting created a safe space for me. I remember the first year that I felt moved, and I believe I was 7, and I was eating a piece of watermelon that my friend had brought me and staring out on the beautiful field of corn and seeing just what I could imagine was a million fireflies lighting up the sky. And I was exhausted from dancing on the lawn, and I found myself smiling just to myself and realizing that this was the safe space that I was looking for. And this this was everything to me. And I was happy, and that was because of the people I was surrounded with and the community that you have all created for me and the children like me. Um, Quakers brought me peace. The Quakers taught me that there's strength in having strong values. The Quakers followed me through my life, and they follow me through this strange, unpredictable world. They are my strength and my bravery and my peace. I remember laughing like no one cared how loud I was, and dancing like no one was looking because I knew they'd be dancing with me. And I remember learning things that we would never be taught in school. And above all, I remember coming back every year and creating more memories of peace. And there's nothing I could say to tell you how important that is for me and for the children in our group. And that is why I hope to bring that peace and safety and love to the new generation of Quakers. And I hold this love and peace close to my heart, and I carry you all around every day. And the best thing that I can end this with is if the world feels like it's spinning, spin with it. And that is what I learned. Thank you.
So now we'd like to open it up. If there are other people who might like to share some of their experiences growing up, because there are lots more of us who have grown up in this yearly meeting. So if you feel led to share, let me know. Or if you have questions, that's okay too.
I'm Kevin Brubaker. I did not grow up in this meeting, but my children did. And there's one particular story I'd like to share with you because it means a great deal to me and captures for me much of what I've heard you say. My daughter Lindsay was a very, very shy child. We came here when she was, I think, about 4, and she asked me to sign her up for the talent show. And I told her I would, and I didn't, because I knew perfectly well that as soon as they called her name, she would start crying and run and leave in tears. That was the kind of shy child she was. But she pestered me again. And so I somewhat reluctantly signed her up for the talent show. And at some point, her name was called, and shy Lindsay walked up on that stage and showed everyone here that she'd learned to do a somersault. At 4 years old, she had figured out what it's taken some of us a very long time to figure out, of just what a safe place this is to be yourself. Thank you.
Bruce at Northside Friends meeting. I'm just curious, when did the Jello thing start? Can you say a little bit about how it was initiated?
It's pudding. And I really wanted to play in pudding one year. And I got the whole high school group to get on my side about how fun it would be to play in pudding. So we decided not to go on an out trip, and we played in pudding instead. And with all the money that we didn't spend on going on an expensive out trip, we ended up donating to I believe it was like a Native American group that we donated books to as, do you remember? Pine Ridge Native Americans. Yeah. When we donated, it ended up, I think, like 2 or 3,000. We raised money for them as well. We sold, I think that's the first year we started selling t-shirts. We didn't go on an out trip, and then we donated books to them as well. And I got to play in pudding. It just seemed like a really fun time. And then it happened like 4 or 5 more times each year after that.
I just want to say, as a result of that pudding, Brittany's car is now permanently stained to this day.
Don't think about how weird it is to play in pudding because it's actually awesome. And you know you want to. Like, don't.
No, it was an ordeal. We did purchase a very large like tarp, and we tacked it down over in front of the high school group. And then we got big tote buckets, and we went to Aldi's and bought every pudding package and condensed milk on the shelf, and we mixed them with our arms. And then we threw it everywhere and had a slip and slide of pudding. And it was pretty great. And all the little kids had to watch. They weren't allowed to touch the pudding. So you can see why everybody else wanted to do it each year, because they were like, I saw how much fun they had last year and I want to do it this time, which turned out really great because we donated so much money each year because we didn't go do anything because we just played in pudding.
Hi, I'm Janet Fair from 57th Street Meeting in Chicago, and I think this is a really appropriate follow-up question. Could somebody tell me about the history of showers at yearly meeting?
Can I do the pudding follow-up? Is it on? Is it on? It is. Okay, so I just sold the pudding car, and it is always now referred to as the pudding car because that was the year that I was in charge of the high schoolers. And we also had a foreign exchange student from Japan with us. And then we had to explain to her like what this was. And she didn't believe us. And we're like, oh, honey, no, we're not. There's like no idioms here. It's literally playing and pudding. And she's like, okay. And so yeah, we had the tarp. It was out behind the bunkhouse. And then the kids are all playing, and then they get too hot and tired, and they're also getting crusty. And then my car is there. And they all just hive mind look at me standing up by the bunkhouse. And I'm just like, go for it. And so someone wrote pudding on the car in pudding. Someone did a little butt print on my car. Someone like laid on the car. So just smush and handprints all over my car. I didn't know how caustic pudding is in the sun to a car. So it's still on there. It's still in the paint. And I sold it to Mason George in North Carolina to use for mutual aid, because he does mutual aid car repair. So when he's fixing someone's car, they'll use my car as a loaner car. And they will have to drive through Asheville, North Carolina with a car that says pudding all over it. There you go. That was
Okay, question about history of showers? Anybody want to field that? Want to elaborate what you're asking? I'm not sure.
Well, now there are shower houses, people camp. I wonder where people took showers in the beginning, or did you?
No, it just rained.
It rained a lot. When I was growing up, we stayed in farmhouses. They all had showers. We didn't have to come anywhere else to have a shower. Is that the best answer? I mean, I don't know how else to answer. Do you have an answer?
Well, again, I lived in a farmhouse and people from Yearly Mead would stay with us also. However, we did not have a well. We had to haul water from the meeting house. So every 10 days, 2 weeks, we would drive the tractor up here with a big tank, an empty tank, and fill it full of water and take it back home. So showers were infrequent in our area.
I caught some of this. And, you know, as youth, your memory's a bit distorted. I do remember taking showers in the gutters. I do remember water shortage, and it was anti-social to take a shower some years. The swimming pool became very popular in Henry. There was a good deal of miscommunication, like when the shower house was built, there was a solar collector on the top for heating the water, and the solar water heater wasn't enclosed in glass, so it didn't work very well. So there was a lot of experimentation and a lot of failure. I do remember showers on the far side of the shower house to try and expand it. So yeah, that's two of us that say they really were there.
As of right now, I just want to point out, now that we've explained the passive showers, the teens are required to take 2 showers while they're here. So if they're a little stinky, just let me know.
Bobby Trist Urbana. So I did not grow up Quaker, but I became a Quaker at the age of 21. I'd been raised Methodist, and religion was important to me. But I remember in high school thinking, the quote that stands out in my memory is, no one comes to the Father but by me, which is supposedly a quote of Jesus. And that didn't seem right to me because I was like, what about all the Buddhists? What about all the Hindus that I knew about by then? And so when I was in college at Michigan, I took a sociology of religion course, a psychology of religion course, and visited a lot of houses of worship. And I landed at the Ann Arbor Quakers. And in those days, they just had guests introduce themselves, and I just shrank into their pews. And I was not about to stand up in this strange place and introduce myself. I've changed. But so I had already been to Lake Erie yearly meeting in the 6 years my husband and I lived in Germany. Not with the military, thank you. We were active with Quakers there, which is a very intimate family. There were about 500 Quakers in all of West Germany. And then we came to Champaign-Urbana. And I came in 1980, Rebecca Goldentrist, aforementioned by Anna. And her little brother were 3 and 1. And I have come every year since because this place feels like home. My parents were immigrants from different places, so I didn't have a lot of extended family. This is my extended family.
I'm Adam from Northside. This is my first time here. I've been attending for about a year now. And my question for the panel and for anybody else here, what would you tell somebody who is me, the first time here, or anybody else? What can we be doing this week to ensure that we keep having the experiences that you guys have had over the years and kind of keep passing the torch down? What are some of your thoughts on that?
I'm Brad Laird, Dunlin Friends and Elkhart River Worship Group. The answer is I'm on nominating committee. I have lots of ideas for you.
I'm Janice Dominic from Lake Forest Friends Meeting. Be sure to become a dishwasher. You'll see everybody, and doing that will open you to all the people that are here. And if you really want to have fun when you're doing that, ask them to sing you a song. And you can say it's all right to sing Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. But the whole idea of getting them to interact with you.
I think what I try to encourage some people when I suggest coming to yearly meeting is to feel comfortable doing nothing. And that sounds silly, but genuinely sitting out on the yard and doing nothing and not needing to go anywhere, or just being around people who support you and who would talk for hours if you'd let them. And, just having that freedom, even as an adult, is so important. And that is how I describe yearly meeting. And it's just that time that people yearn for.
Julia Pantoga from Evanston monthly meeting, friends meeting. And if you want to fall in love with this place deep and hard, work on it. Take advantage of every work day. My favorite time of year is site prep. I came to every work day. My first experience with this yearly meeting was a work day. I went to a work day before the sessions. So, yeah.
This is not for, Marie White, Northside Friends Meeting, she, her. This is not for the newcomers. This is for those of us who've been here forever. When you see somebody that you don't know, introduce yourself. Take a real interest in getting to know them. Ask them if they have any questions about how things work here. That's how we're going to make it go forward.
Brandon Harrington, 57th Street meeting. I wanted to second what was said about participating in site prep and work days. We Quakers, we get here, we do the work together. This happens because we do the work. You can count the paid staff on maybe one hand. This is how you build the relationships, the beautiful friendships. Strongly encouraged.
Any other thoughts, questions from anybody? I want to thank the panel for your wonderful stories. And thank everybody else for attending, and share your stories all week. Thank you.